Welcome back to Speller Tutorial Services. In today's video, we're going to talk about properties of the quadratic equation. The prefix quad in quadratic equation means 4, and 4 also means a square. In mathematics, when something is squared, that means it is taken to the second power. So a quadratic equation would be in the form f of x is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Here we see that we have the highest exponent of 2, so this here is known as a second degree equation, and this second degree equation is also called a quadratic equation. The form that we see here, this form is called the standard form. And here these variables a, b, and c are just integers or real numbers that can be again positive or negative. If we have a second degree or quadratic equation, that's going to form a graph or a picture on a graph that's called a parabola. That parabola can open up, of course it can open down, it can open to the left, and it can also open to the right. With these parabolas, they have a number of different properties or characteristics, but the one in particular we're going to talk about here is called the vertex, or in plural, the vertices. So these dots here for each one is the vertex. If we're talking about this first parabola, the vertex here would symbolize a minimum because it's at the bottom. The vertex here would symbolize a maximum because it's the highest value. For this parabola here, it'd be the rightmost value, and for this one here, it would be the leftmost value. If I'm working with an equation that's in standard form, to find the vertex, I have two expressions. The first expression will be x is equal to negative b divided by 2a. Once you resolve that by substituting in these values for a and b, that will tell you the x value for the vertex. Once you find that value, once you've evaluated that expression, if you take that expression and take that value and you put that value back into the original equation, that there will give you the y value for the vertex. I didn't say this earlier, but also we should know that when you see f of x also means y. All right, now there's another form. The other form is called the vertex form. All right, it's called the vertex form because it's easy to find the vertex when the equation is in this form, and that's in the form of f of x is equal to a times the quantity x minus h squared plus the value of k. And here, if a is positive, it's going to either open up or to the right. If a is negative, it's going to open down or to the left. Since we're just dealing with, or we're going to focus on quadratic equations where only the x value is squared, our parabolas are going to either open up or going to open down. But back to the vertex form. It's easy to see the vertex because the vertex will be found by taking the value of h and taking the opposite sign, and then taking the value of k and the sign as we see it. So that there would be our vertex. Alright, now let's look at some of the methods that are available to solving quadratic equations. One method is just factoring. With factoring, you must be very good at multiplication and integer multiplication and your integer addition, because the positives and negatives will kill you on a quiz or examination if you're not sure what those signs are supposed to be. Another method is called completing the square. All right, with the completing the square method, completing the square is going to automatically take an equation, a quadratic equation that's in standard form, and it's going to put that in vertex form. Another method is using graphing. The graphing method is good to start because it gives you a visual representation of what the parabola looks like, and it makes it easy to find your answer. But when it comes to doing a lot of problems, graphing is just time consuming, and more likely than not on a quiz or other examination, they're probably going to only have one or two pictures of a parabola that need the answer. The rest you're going to have to use other methods to figure out the solutions for those equations. Another method is the quadratic equation. Right, with the quadratic equation, it's a method that works all the time. When other methods fail, you can always fall back to this quadratic equation, and that will get you your answer. But the difficulty with the quadratic equation is that sometimes people find it hard to remember. With the quadratic equation, it's x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and that expression is divided by 2a. Once you resolve that, that there will give you your solution or solutions to your quadratic equation. And then the last method is the substitution method. With the substitution method, you're going to take a term, or you're going to take a factor of a term and substitute that for another value, and that should make it easier to use other methods like factoring or completing the square. Alright, and then I want to talk about the number of solutions that are available. Depending on how that parabola falls on the graph, if it touches or crosses that x-axis in two places, you're going to have two real solutions. If the parabola touches our x-axis in only one location, let's draw one going down to show it doesn't have to always be open up. If one opens down, it has one real solution. And if it does not touch the x-axis at all, that there has two imaginary solutions. Alright, now you may wonder, how can I figure that out before I even attempt the graph? Well, you need to fall back to the quadratic equation. And you know what? I left a part off. Underneath this radical, it should be b squared minus 4ac. Please make sure you have that c there. Alright, the b squared minus 4ac, that's the important part when we want to figure out what types of solutions we have before we come to exactly what the solution is. This expression here is known as the discriminant. With the discriminant, when you resolve it, if the discriminant is equal to 0, then that means you have only one real solution. If that discriminant value is greater than 0, then that means you have two real solutions. And if that discriminant is less than 0, meaning it's negative, that means you have two imaginary solutions. And when it's imaginary, those are also known as a complex or complex solutions. Alright, I think that sums it up for the basics of working with quadratic equations and given the different methods that are available to solve them. So please stay tuned for more videos that use those methods. And as always, thank you for watching another video by Speller Tutorial Services. Please friend us on Facebook and also subscribe to that YouTube channel found under that same name of Speller Tutorial. Thank you again for watching.